Have you ever felt it? That heart-wrenching paradox where the more love you give, the more you care, the more you try, the further he seems to pull away? You pour your energy into the relationship, tending to it like a garden, only to feel like you're watering desert sand. It's an exhaustion that seeps into your bones, an emotional labor that goes not just unrewarded, but seems to be actively counterproductive. You've been told the answer is to love harder, to communicate more, to be more understanding. But what if that's not only wrong? What if it's the very thing that's extinguishing the flame you're trying so desperately to keep alive? This isn't about playing games. This is not about learning tactics to be hard to get. This is about understanding a profound biological truth that most people will never grasp. It's about 5 specific energetic shifts that happen within a woman when she stops making a man the center of her universe. And it's the 5th shift, the most subtle, the most profound, that separates fleeting attraction from a deep, unshakable fixation in the male mind. Stay with me, because understanding this will change not just your relationships, but the very way you inhabit your own skin. Let's begin by dismantling a myth that has been sold to women for generations. A story that has caused immeasurable pain. We'll call it the good woman trap. You know the story. You were likely raised in its shadow. The good woman is endlessly accommodating. She is nurturing to a fault. She is a soft place for everyone else to land, even if she herself is standing on stone. She preempts his needs, she soothes his ego, she organizes his life. She silences her own desires to make space for his. She becomes the emotional caretaker of the relationship. And she does all of this, believing that this boundless giving is the ultimate proof of her love and her value. She believes it is the currency of connection. I know. I understand. You've been there. You have felt the sacred call to nurture, to give, and to love with an open heart. But here is the difficult, liberating truth. Your exhaustion is not a sign of your failure. It is a biological signal, a deep, primal alarm bell telling you that your investment strategy is fundamentally misaligned with your own survival and flourishing. What evolutionary science, particularly the work of psychologist David Buss, reveals is a starkly different reality. In the deep, ancient calculus of partner selection, the brain isn't wired to seek the most dedicated servant. It is wired to seek the partner of the highest perceived value. And what are the most potent, undeniable signals of high value? Selectivity, self-sufficiency, a life so rich and full that your happiness is not contingent on anyone else's approval. The good woman archetype, while serving certain social structures of the past, often signals the opposite: neediness, over-availability, and a low sense of self-worth. It's a tragic irony. The very strategy you were taught would make you cherished is the one that inadvertently signals you are a low-value investment. And so you find yourself depleted because you were taught to give away your power, believing it was love. She is not cold. She is protecting her sacred inner fire. She is not selfish. She is honoring the biological imperative to preserve her life force. She is not broken. She is in a state of profound metamorphosis. And this realization is the first step towards reclaiming a power you were never meant to give away. To understand why your seeming indifference becomes his obsession, we have to look at the ancient wiring of the human brain. David Buss, in his groundbreaking research across 37 cultures, developed what he calls the strategic interference theory. In simple terms, it means that the evolutionary strategies of men and women can sometimes conflict. Historically, a male strategy could involve gaining access to a partner with minimal long-term investment. When a woman is perpetually available, eager, and accommodating, she is, without realizing it, perfectly aligning with his low-effort strategy. There is no challenge, no need for him to escalate his investment. He gets all the benefits of her presence, her care, her attention, her energy, without having to earn his place in her life. But when you pull back, when you become genuinely absorbed in your own world, you strategically interfere with this low-effort approach. You are no longer an easily accessible resource. You become scarce. And in human psychology, from economics to evolution, scarcity creates value. Today, this ancient dynamic plays out in a modern way. Your full, vibrant life, your passions, your friendships, your purpose, your peace, these are not obstacles to the relationship. They are the undeniable, hard-to-fake evidence of your high value. They force him to shift from a low-investment strategy to a high-investment one. He must now compete for a spot in your well-curated world. This is what the brilliant therapist Esther Perel talks about when she says, desire needs mystery. A life that does not revolve around him is, by its very definition, mysterious. He doesn't know what you're thinking when you're not texting him. He doesn't know what brings you joy when you're out living your life. That space, that unknown, is the fertile ground where desire and obsession grow. The emotional translation for him is profound, and it happens on a level he isn't even conscious of. Her happiness does not depend on me. Therefore, having the chance to contribute to her already existing happiness is a prize, not an obligation. This single shift changes everything.
This transformation isn't a tactic, it's an awakening, a journey back to the self. And it often begins with a single, quiet moment of realization. The awakening. It's the internal click, the moment you are sitting in silence, perhaps waiting for a text, and you suddenly realize with startling clarity that your own inner peace is more valuable than his response. It's the moment you choose your serenity over the anxiety of his silence. This isn't ego. Evolutionarily, it's your system of self-preservation, which has been dormant for too long, finally recalibrating. It's ensuring the survival of your most precious asset, you, a whole woman returning to herself. The pullback panic. But the moment you make this internal shift, another voice rises up. A primal, terrified voice that screams, "But if I pull back, he'll leave. I'll lose him." I need you to hear this. This wave of panic is not a sign you're doing something wrong. It is the clearest signal that you are doing something profoundly right. Dr. Sue Johnson's work in emotionally focused therapy shows that this taps into our deepest mammalian fear of abandonment. For millennia, being disconnected from the tribe or the partner meant death. Your brain is screaming at you, reconnect for safety, appease, close the distance. Feel that fear, honor it, and understand that it is the friction that precedes the ignition of your true power. Your biology is resisting the change because for so long, relational harmony, even at your own expense, was the key to survival. But you are no longer just surviving. You are learning to thrive. This is your ancestral power beginning to stir. The embodiment. This leads to the most crucial turn, the point where you move from acting indifferent to becoming genuinely occupied. This is not about ignoring his calls while secretly hoping he calls again. This is about being so engrossed in your own project, your own book, your own walk in the park, that you genuinely miss his call. The anthropologist Helen Fisher has shown how new passions, new interests, and new purposes create floods of dopamine in the brain, the very same neurotransmitter associated with the bliss of early romantic love. You literally begin to feel in love with your own life, and a new behavior emerges naturally. You start making plans without consulting him, not as an act of rebellion, but because your time is genuinely, authentically precious to you. Your inner world becomes the destination, not the waiting room. It's here that he feels the shift on a visceral level. You've gone from being an anxious need he has to manage to a calm, desirable, and magnetic presence he wants to be near. When a woman completes this journey, she embodies a quality that is both irresistible and slightly intimidating. It is a profound, unshakable sense of her own center. She becomes the sun. Others may choose to orbit, or they may not, but her light and her warmth are generated from within. They are not dependent on who is circling her. This magnetic presence is the signature of a truly whole woman. This directly contradicts the cultural script that a woman's fulfillment comes from being chosen. She is no longer waiting to be chosen. She is the one who chooses where to invest her time, her energy, and her sacred attention. And this, right here, is the master key. David Buss, in his life's work, has emphasized that female choosiness, or selectivity, is one of the most powerful engines of human evolution. By becoming genuinely selective with your precious life force, you are not just reclaiming your personal power, you are stepping into your most potent and authentic evolutionary role. You are honoring the wisdom of millions of women who came before you, encoded in your very DNA. For a man of substance, this is intoxicating. The relationship is no longer a place of comfort and obligation. It becomes an adventure. The psychologist Dr. Arthur Aaron discovered that the happiest couples are those who engage in self-expansion together. He begins to see a relationship with you not as something that will complete him, but as something that will expand him. He has to grow to meet you in your world. He has to become a better man to deserve a place in the orbit of such a magnetic presence. He doesn't just think about you more, he thinks about himself and who he needs to become in relation to you. So how do you know? How do you know you have truly made this shift, that you have reclaimed your center of gravity? It's not in his behavior, it's in yours. The first and most profound sign is this: you begin to treasure your own sacred silence. His silence on the other end of the phone is no longer a referendum on your worth. It's no longer a black hole of anxiety that you feel compelled to fill. It simply becomes silent. And in that space, you find your own thoughts, your own peace, your own presence. His silence stops being about him and starts being an opportunity for you to connect with yourself. When you are not afraid of his silence, you have taken back all of your power. The second sign is the feedback you get from the environment. He starts seeking you out, not for comfort or habit, but for your perspective. He becomes interested, not just in your presence, but in your mind. He asks for your opinion. He wants to know what you think about the world, because he can sense you have a rich inner world that is entirely your own. He starts to value your mind as much as he desires your body. But the final, undeniable checkpoint, the fifth energetic shift I mentioned at the beginning, is the one that cannot be faked. It's the feeling of genuine, deep-seated peace with any outcome. You want him, perhaps, but you do not need him. Your well-being, your happiness, your sense of self are no longer tethered to whether he stays or goes. You would be sad if he left, but you would not be destroyed, because you have finally, truly come home to yourself. You have discovered that you are your own sanctuary. This is the authentic,
non-reactive, sovereign energy that he can feel in his bones. It is the ultimate signal of high value. It's the energy of a queen, not a court jester. It is the energy of a whole woman. And it is the most magnetic force in the universe of human attraction. Because the less you need him to care, the more he finds himself unable to stop thinking about you. He is not obsessed with your absence, but with the richness of your presence in your own life. So I will leave you with a final question. What if that deep restlessness you sometimes feel, that longing for something more, isn't a problem to be fixed? What if it's not a sign of loneliness? What if it is a sacred, ancestral call? A whisper from the lineage of powerful women who live in your DNA, calling you to stop tending to gardens outside of yourself and to finally turn your loving attention to the magnificent, untamed wilderness within. Calling you to reclaim your ancestral power. If something here today touched a truth you had forgotten or one you've always known in your heart, please share which part it was in the comments below. Sometimes the greatest healing comes from the simple, powerful discovery that we are not alone in this awakening. And if you know a woman who needs to be reminded of the sun she holds within, share this with her. It's time to come home.